Welcome to The Path is Always Evolving, a podcast for healing humans and curious souls. Hosted by energy healer Tenya Eichenberg and mind body specialist Eva Zobian-Wolf, this show blends science and spirit to explore real life healing, self care, and personal transformation. No fluff, no fixing, just grounded conversations that meet you where you are. Because healing isn't linear, but the path, it's always evolving. Hello, welcome. This episode, we're going to be talking about how to mourn the loss of a parent or parents in a lot of different variations, whether it's mourning the idea of what you thought a parent should be, mourning the realization of a difference in relationship, different stages of relationships, and also mourning a parent that has departed this earth and all the feelings that come with that, regardless of the closeness or the relationship that you've had with that parent. And holding space for yourself to be able to navigate that in the way that it feels right for you, especially when it's different than what your spouse or your friends, even your siblings may be mourning. So thank you so much for being here. I'm joined today with my lovely co-host, Tenya. As both of us are energy healers, we do enter into this conversation with a slightly different perspective. And I want to send lots of lovely energy to you, Tenya, because you are navigating this
I
currently.
am. I am. And I feel like I've been navigating the loss of my mom for probably the last 40 years. If not earlier than that. Um, my mom was diagnosed with being bipolar when I was about 8 years old. And so prior to that, I wonder if there was a subconscious loss of like viewing her against other moms that I saw at school or the park, that my mom was not anything like these other moms that I saw. Now, to be fair, I didn't see those other moms in their homes, so who knows what kind of moms they were like. But the mom that I had in my awareness was not the mom that I probably, at least I know in my teenage years, I envisioned that I would have liked to have had. Now, and I'm sure you can relate to this as well, comparing our parents to TV parents, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I'm sure our parents did the same thing. I mean, Leave It to Beaver and, Dad Knows Best and those other shows that they grew up with didn't exactly depict parents the way that their parents were either.
Well, I don't know that my parents watched TV because they also grew up in Eastern Europe. And so I don't
They
know
may
that
not have had TV.
I don't know that they had TV. And if they did, I don't know what type of role models. And that's
Right.
basically, when we're looking at, yeah, when we grew up with watching the Brady Bunch and, oh my gosh, what were the other
Growing
shows?
Pains.
Growing
Uh,
Pains.
oh, what was the one with Jason Bateman? The Hogans? I don't think it was the Hogans at first, but it was the Hogans. I don't know, remember if she was a single mom with a father figure or, oh gosh, I don't know why that show just popped in my head.
I don't know. Yeah, there was a number of TV shows that I watched. I was a latchkey kid, so I was,
Yeah.
watching TV, and yeah, seeing the mother figures and the father figures on TV was very much different than the lived experience that I had. And then also, you're right, the way that other friends talked about their parents and the, if I went over to went over to a friend's house, seeing the way that their parents interacted with each other and with the kids, very different than my lived
Mhm.
experience.
Yeah.
And I think, and we're going to talk in future episodes, we're talking about chakras, and this is relevant to this because it speaks to energetic challenges and energetic opportunities. That energy is part of how we develop as a person. And
Yeah.
so if there was a particular area, and this is a big, root chakra, sacral chakra, solar plexus chakra, and heart chakra
Hmm.
component, that it will affect those particular areas of your energy and also of your body, because they're developed in these instances when you come to this realization of, my parent is a human being and they are flawed.
Yeah. But we don't see that as kids, right? Because we're not taught to view people as human beings. We're taught to view them as mom, dad, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, whatever. Um, and with those labels come um, specific areas of characteristics that we are meant to view.
Roles and
Yeah,
responsibilities and
and if we don't see those roles being depicted in our own families, we can start to wonder, like, real short story, I can one of the few memories I have before age 8. And I think I was around, I want to say I was 3 or 4. I remember sitting in the back seat of a station wagon, and my dad was in the front seat. I don't know if any other of my siblings were with us. I'm assuming they were because I was only 4. Um, and I think my mom ran into the store. But I can remember telling my dad, and I've asked him if he remembers this, and he doesn't, telling him that my real dad had a mustache.
hmm.
And he didn't have a mustache at the time. I don't remember so much of the conversation after that, but I remember saying that my real dad had a mustache and that he wasn't my real dad. So, one, it could have been I was remembering past life stuff, or it could have been I was not liking the father I had at the time. And so I wish I had a different dad. I don't know. Um, but I can remember by probably around age 12 or 13, I really began to want a different, I really wanted different parents. And I was embarrassed by the parents I had. And I was embarrassed. I will be one of those people. I am a totally honest person. I was embarrassed by my mom I may still, a part of me, be embarrassed by having her as a mom. But there were times when I just did not like, when she made comments on Facebook, I'd be like, I'm so glad that our last names do not match up. So there's a lot of stuff there that I have had to mourn through and come to terms with.
So, and I'm just curious because this is a deviation in similarities here. Your mom's personality, her public personality, was similar to her personality that she had with you.
Sometimes, sometimes when I posted that my mom had passed away, I asked people to share their favorite memory of her. I wasn't looking for condolences. I was tagging her because I wasn't friends with her on Facebook for a few years. And she friend requested me again sometime last year, and I went ahead and accepted it. Um under the uh my own caveat that if she started to comment too much on my stuff, that I would block her again. I would unfriend her again. But I had asked people to post their favorite memory of her. And everybody was posting these wonderful memories of her. And I'm like, man, I really wish I could have known that mom.
Mm. Can we talk about that for a second?
Mm-hmm.
So that person that she was with those individuals was very different than the person that she was with you.
Yes.
And having that version of her be your mom would have been a completely different experience.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because she was so kind to strangers. And only her family and maybe her closest people who spent, bulk amount of time with her really knew who she was behind closed doors. Now, I'm not saying she was a horrible person behind. She didn't I wasn't sexually abused. After my siblings moved out, I wasn't spanked. I remember being slapped in the face once after my siblings moved out, and to be kind, like, I kind of deserved it, even though, like, I know now that I didn't deserve to get slapped in the face. Like, I told my mom to F off, and
Mm.
that triggered something in her, and her reaction was to slap me in the face. um I know now that I did not deserve to get hit.
Mhm.
Nobody deserves to get hit, um unless you're defending yourself. But I was quite rebellious at that stage, and so I needed some discipline, and that was the only discipline she knew to deal out. But I didn't get to know I didn't get to have that caring mom for the last 15 years of our relationship. I got the mom that continued to blame, like she blamed my dad. She would bulk our family into this group of characteristics, and the whole family was against her. And so, when you look at, and I don't know if this is how you see your mom going through life as well, like, your mom is nicer to strangers and other people than she is to her own family. um
Oh, for sure. And in fact, the mom that I got is very different than the mom that my sister got.
mhm.
And then she's another individual with her friends and strangers and
Right. Yeah. I mean, my older siblings, who were not my mom's biological children, had a very different mom than my brother and I had. I had a very different mom than my brother had, and we were 21 months apart. And he was the baby. So it was her last one, and so she was um very, very caring and loving towards him. I was her oldest, even though I was my dad's third. But it wasn't until probably 2 years ago that my sister started sharing some of the stories that her and my brother had to go through as teenagers and young preteens, that my mom put them through. And so that also kind of changed my view of her, because she had adopted them. They were legally her children, even though they weren't biologically hers. And she did not treat them with the same love and respect that she showed to my brother and I when we were younger. But on the other hand, she was dealing with her own mental illness, trying to navigate that, raising two teenagers and two younger children in a foreign country. I can recognize that. But I still mourned And I mourned the mom that my older sibling should have had. Right? I'm not just mourning who I felt I deserved or I wanted or who I lost, but I mourned the mother that my older siblings should have gotten as well because I felt for them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And going through this process, and we talked about this in another episode, going through multiple levels and layers of this grieving process when you become a teenager and you realize that your parents are human beings and they're not perfect, when you realize that who you saw on TV, that you don't recognize that those are just fictional characters and that somebody like that doesn't even actually exist
Right.
in real life.
Right.
But also when you see this relationship that maybe friends have with their parents, and you mourn the fact that you don't have that relationship, you don't have that support system, you don't have that safe space, even in your own home. And then, the yogic perspective of this is being able to look at that and be grateful for the experience, and that's not in a toxic positivity kind of way, but more along the lines of being grateful for what lessons it provided, not necessarily the experience. So
Mm-hmm.
the amount of strength and the amount of compassion and the amount of perseverance that I developed as a person, would I have developed that had I had a nurturing, loving,
Right.
supportive home? I don't know. I was never
Right.
given that opportunity, so I don't know if that would have
Right.
happened for me.
Right.
But instead, and again, you go back to the energetic perspective of I chose this particular life. Like this is my karmic. This is part of my karmic path. And so, here I'm here, as one of my yoga mentors says, I'm here on Earth School with the people that are here to help me with my karmic lessons. And if you're in the Vedic astrology world, this is my moksha. These are the things that I'm here to learn and develop. And if I'd had a supporting mom and a loving mom, then my destinies, my lessons would be completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's how do you see that and say, this sucks, and
Right.
okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? And it's funny because I've gone hiking with my husband, I don't know how many times, and we'll be out in the middle of a mountain or in the middle of, wherever, and we're hiking, we're talking about different things and talking about different relationships. And one of the things that I have said over and over is, I want to heal this relationship. I want to heal this issue that I have so that I can be done with it in this lifetime. I don't want to fucking do this again.
Right. Right. Right.
And so for me, that's how I'm viewing it. That's how
Mm-hmm.
I'm navigating it.
Yeah.
How somebody else does it and how somebody else deals with it, probably very different. And one's not right and one's not wrong.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And one of the things that has helped me a lot in dealing with a lot of the stuff going on in the world right now is somebody posted something several weeks ago that said, not everybody is here to evolve.
Mm-hmm.
And when I take that and I apply it to anybody in any situation where I wish they would deal with something different, and then
Right.
recognize, okay, their path, their journey, their timeline, their pace.
Yep.
It's not up to me. All I can do is say, I'm going to do the work that I'm going to do, and I'm going to look at this with kindness, compassion, and non judgment.
Yeah.
And so, when I look at the relationship that I had or didn't have with my dad, well, he's no longer alive. There's nothing I can do with that. I can communicate with his spirit.
Right.
I can, do past life regressions and see what was I supposed to learn from my relationship with him, and look to see how do I heal. And we'll talk about this in the chakra episodes. How do I heal the areas in my energetic fields that didn't develop because those resources weren't there for me?
Yeah.
And in my relationship with my mom, she's still alive. I don't know what that's going to look like. Like, quite frankly, I could wake up one morning and have a bunch of messages from friends back in Michigan and saying, like, hey, sorry about your loss. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, why? What happened?
Right.
I
Right.
don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I can, and I think that's kind of what has made this loss of my mom passing, um, feel like it's easier to deal with than I thought it was going to. Um, because I did, like, there was forgiveness for her year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, where I really sat um with how I felt about her. And that's when I was able to come to the awareness that she's working this lifetime from her own trauma, from her own lessons. And I can forgive her and my dad for how I was raised. I still don't like it. I still wish I had a different childhood. I mean, we're human, right? We want to have been cared for and loved, and not have to see your parents fighting, or um your parents fighting with your siblings, or splitting up, or anything like that. You don't want to see that. You don't want to have to live through that, and wonder, are you in a safe place, because their loud voices are scaring you. But I know that they could only process what they were going through with the knowledge that they had at the time. It's not a get out of free jail card. I'm not saying that, hey, what they did was right or okay, but I've grown enough in the last few years to say I get it. But boy, was it shit to go through. As it was for you.
And having that dual paradox, right, where we recognize the challenge that, yeah, was it pleasant to not feel safe, and to, not, basically walking on eggshells and not knowing, if I say something, is this later going to be thrown back at me, as is this going to be weaponized against me?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And part of that is, and I attribute that to why my nervous system was so out of balance for so long, why a lot of my decisions were really crappy decisions, and why I was
Mm-hmm.
stuck in certain cycles. And then, why after 10 years in the ICU, I was suffering from burnout, why I didn't show up as my best self, the best version of myself for my kids. And then when I worked in doing the work, I was constantly doing the work. I was constantly trying to be better. And then, having to go back to each of the kids and say, I was in burnout. It doesn't condone how I showed up. And I'm sorry that I wasn't always the best mom. I did show up with a lot of love. I showed up
Right.
where I was at their events. I was, you know, there cheering them on. I was always supporting them and telling them they could be anything they wanted to be. And what was most important was to always be themselves and to be kind and compassionate to other people.
Yeah.
And I told my kids, I don't know how many times, I'm like, I don't care what color your hair is, how many tattoos you have, how many piercings you are, as long as you are a good and kind person to other
Right.
people and you're happy. That's it.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
Yeah.
And so I hope that all of those things stuck out more than the times when I was just burnt out and navigating the crap in myself.
Mm-hmm.
And quite frankly, had I ever had a conversation like that with my parents, the grieving process of grieving the loss of that relationship, the loss of that parental role, the loss of their life would have been so much easier. And that didn't
Yeah.
happen. And
Yeah.
so that's another grieving process. Grieving the fact that they didn't have that introspection for themselves. And if
Mm-hmm.
they are in that growth process, if they are in that trying to do better and be better, it never got to the point where they actually had a conversation with me about it.
Yeah. I did have a conversation with my mom um, before Christmas. It was after her visit before that when she told me that she didn't like me 99% of the time.
Ow.
Yeah. I was able to tell her that growing up, we weren't allowed to have, there wasn't room for us to have emotions. There wasn't room for us to be angry, to be mad, to be sad, to worry, because she took up a lot of the emotion, and having those emotions made us feel like we needed to walk on eggshells around her. And her response was, um, I thought the way that I handled things was protecting you. And I was like, I get that. I can understand that. But then in the same breath, she also said, well, I grew up with this. And I was like, no, mom, this is about me. She always had to, and I know it was her way of trying to be relatable,
Mm-hmm.
but she always turned the story around to it being about her. And that always made me feel bad for having those emotions that I would go to her about that I was having, whether it was with her or work or whatever. Um, but she did apologize at the end of that conversation. And it was the first time that she ever apologized without saying, I'm sorry, but
Mm.
she was just, I'm sorry.
And that's something really powerful, like the energy behind an apology that is simply, I'm so sorry. I'm
Yeah.
so sorry that that's the experience that you had. And and keeping it just in that, because when we say things like I'm sorry but, that but just negates the I'm sorry. It means, it
Yeah.
says to the person, I'm not actually sorry, I'm simply going through the motions of saying the
Yeah.
words.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
And
not
so yeah,
seeing you, I'm
so
not hearing you.
right. Right. And I have texted my kids, particularly my one daughter, because she was the middle child, even though she was one of the twins. She was the middle child. Um, and she had what I call that second child syndrome. She was always pushing for attention because she was the middle child and there were two other siblings in the house. But I can remember there were a few times when I would, because of my own upbringing, my own trauma that I was dealing with, that I did not fully believe the emotions that she was having was because of what was what she was telling me, just like my mom had. And I texted her one day and I was like, I am so sorry if I ever invalidated your feelings. And I left it at that. I didn't give her a reason. We weren't having a conversation before that. It was just an awareness that I had come to during my healing process, that I had done the same thing to her that my mom did to me. And I needed to apologize for that. But I didn't make an excuse.
So one thing that my mom would say over and over was, do this to make me happy.
Mm,
And I remember my oldest was so young. And we were doing something, I think we were eating something, and I was like, just take like one bite, just one bite to make me happy. And as soon as I said it, I was like, okay, stop.
yeah.
I'm like, just put the fork down, do whatever you want to.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. If you don't want to eat it, don't eat it. But as soon as I heard the words coming out of me, I immediately was just like, no, 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 no. I am not going to do these things.
Yeah.
And I think for me, part of my grieving process was in recognizing that, yeah, my mom was not the person that I wanted her to be, but she showed me who I didn't want to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to agree with that.
And a
Yeah.
lot of my parenting decisions were in, okay, how would this have been handled? Let me do the opposite.
Right. Right. See, I came to that realization later in the raising of my kids. Um, I know I did things differently, but I don't think it was on a conscious level. I did depend on my mom quite a bit when the kids were little, because my husband was working 2 to 3 jobs for me to stay home. And so there were times that I would pack the kids up and we'd go hang over at Nanny and Pop Pop's for a couple of hours because I was spent. Because I at the time I was 23 to 25 years old with 3 children under the age of 5 and dealing with my own trauma healing and nervous system deregulation and all of that. And my mom was there for me. I'm not going to deny that she wasn't. But I also blocked out a lot of stuff. I don't, like, my memories are so sporadic, and I don't know if that is like normal. I don't know, but I have such sporadic memories, period, like throughout my entire life.
It's normal with a dysregulated nervous system. Let me
Yeah.
put that. And looking into one of the things to look into is CPTSD.
Which I was diagnosed with before I found energy healing.
And so
Um,
just giving yourself that
yeah,
space
yeah,
to do exactly what you're doing, right? And
right.
and this is why this conversation is important, is the mourning of relationships with parents, siblings,
Yeah,
mourning, doing the inner child work and being able to have that grief process, and then be able to reframe it and to see it in a different light and to look at it in terms of, what's the lesson, what's
yeah,
the blessing.
yeah, yeah. And I would tell you, I'm not too worried about getting those memories back. Like, they are what they are. I've learned to live for now. I do my best not to worry too much about the future, as far as like what's going to happen tomorrow. But like, planning for retirement, that kind of stuff, keep doing. Um, but like, and I don't sit and worry so much about the past anymore. It's always like what's going on right now. Even when my mom would come and visit and we would have those conversations, those difficult conversations, and I would start to cry or she would get mad, it was still in the moment, because what happened has happened and I can grow from that. And I don't need to continue ruminating on it.
So, in that, and then this is part of yoga therapy and part of a yoga journey as well too, is not necessarily getting stuck in what happened in the past, but instead looking introspectively at where where are my strengths and where are my challenges? Where do I have opportunities for growth?
Right, right,
And energetically, and when we go through the chakras and we talk about that, these will be big components that we'll talk about, especially in the first three chakras, because the stage of development that the first three chakras really govern is the first 2 years, 2 to 4, and I think it's like 4 to 7 or 4 to 8 for
mhm,
the next one, and those are incredibly impactful, energetic areas because it talks about, is there an excess or is there a deficit in those areas? And
right,
then what are the practices that we can do right now to be able to navigate that? And if you're an energy healer listening to this, or if you're a yoga teacher or some type of life coach working with people, this is an incredibly important concept. We don't have to know the story to heal the energetic impact on the
right,
body. And this is
right.
where that mind body connection is incredibly important, because what happened in the body and in the energetic body is affecting the mind and the way that a person speaks and talks and thinks.
Yeah,
And the
yeah,
patterns that we have are affected by these chakras and by the
right,
imbalances in these chakras.
right, right. And yeah, and typically if the lower chakras are out of balance, you cannot connect to your upper chakras. If your lower
Correct.
chakras are out of balance, you're not going to be able to use your voice to stand up for yourself. You're not going to be able to use your intuition um to go down the path that is of least resistance. And you're not going to be able to connect to your divine light. You're not going to be able to get those downloads that are sent to us um on a consistent basis. Really, there are ideas, like we get clouded by all of that.
I'm
What are you
laughing
looking
because I,
for?
I literally have a post-it note that sits on my desk that has the I am, I feel, I have, I love, I speak, I see, I know. And then it also has what what's the shadow for each of those.
Mm,
And so when we come back for our next episode, I will have that one with me.
awesome. Yeah, because we're gonna start a series on all the chakras. Are we gonna do an episode per chakra, or are we going to break it up into two, two, and two? We haven't figured that part out yet.
I think we're gonna let we're gonna let the chakras tell us how this is gonna go. And
Okay.
we may want to spend two on root, two on sacral, two on solar plexus, just because of how impactful they are.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so back to mourning. So what tips do you have for the listeners who may be coming to the realization that they have been mourning the parent that they didn't have, or the parent that they wanted, and their parent is still here?
One, I would say, working with some type of body body work, doing some type of body work, and in combination with talk therapy, I think is incredibly important, because this is not necessarily, if you've never done it, I highly suggest looking into it. Working with an energy person, an energy, I call them light workers, because that energetic stagnation
Mm-hmm.
is creating issues in your body. If you've got fatigue, if you've got a lot of tightness, low range of motion, chronic disease, chronic pain, anything along those lines, it's your body speaking to you. And navigating these energy challenges can, and I'm not going to say that they're going to heal those things because that's not the
Right.
way this works.
Right.
It can help to mitigate the symptoms and help make things more manageable, because where energy is stuck, it does, there's a neuroendocrine component that we'll talk about in the chakras, that is impacting everyday life. So learning to start to be a witnesser to how is this showing up in your life? Where are you seeing things where you are looking at it with a different viewpoint? I highly recommend doing work, whether it's going to yoga classes, going to some type of movement therapy as well, because we've got to process all of this. The
Yeah.
one situation is not going to be, one particular methodology is not going to be enough, particularly if there's a lot of trauma. And I
Yeah.
say trauma meaning it doesn't necessarily have to be some type of physical or mental abuse, or even sexual abuse. There's still that I had a fantastic childhood, but I feel this was missing. And it's learning
Mm-hmm.
to grieve those things and to
Right.
just process it.
Right.
So whether that's journaling, this is a really long answer, so, and I'm like, holy crap. So starting the process, start with
Right.
somewhere.
Right. So I want to put you on the spot real quick. Um,
Ooh,
you
sorry about
joined
that.
you joined my healing groups
Mm,
during the mother wound, right?
yes.
And so that group clearing, which listeners, if you're interested, is a group healing that it's a monthly membership that you come in, you set an intention once a week, you read the activation, and then you just let things do their job. So you were there for the mother wound and the father wound. How has that energy clearing helped you in processing the energetic relationship that you had with the mother and father personas? Because it's not necessarily about the relationship with your parents, it's more about the relationship with those personas. And were there things that came up that you realized that you had been pushing away, and it made you have to deal with it? Or were there things that you didn't know were clearing, and you just had, like, there was just like, huh.
I will say that in the last 2 months, there has definitely been a lot of energy clearing because I've noticed my sleep improving, I've noticed that my creativity improving, and I've noticed that my communication with my kids and with my husband have been improving. And so all of those things are, I'm not feeling, okay, so kind of dialing it back just a tiny bit. One of the things, one of the ways in which my trauma has shown up in my nervous system and my behavior is a hyper independence.
Hmm.
And in the last couple months, I have started really utilizing resources and speaking things out loud and using practices where um, I'm using more resources and I'm being okay. I'm learning to be okay with hearing my own thoughts and hearing my
Hmm.
own hearing
Hmm.
my intuition, and trusting in that, and so asking for assistance, saying this is where I am, those are all things that I'm in my
So it's,
50s now and I have
yeah,
not been doing that, for decades.
right.
So those are definitely areas in which I have seen improvement in me in the last couple months.
So you saw your masculine and feminine energy start to kind of balance out
Um,
because your masculine energy kind of came down a little bit, and it sounds like your feminine energy, because you're looking at those resources, you're asking for help and not being so hyper independent. So it sounds like it's kind of that feminine and masculine energy started to balance out a little bit.
I would definitely say that there's been an energetic balance because for me it was I was starting to feel safe
Right.
to ask for those things, whereas
Right.
before that was never that was never a feeling that I had.
Yeah, and I wanted to have that, and I know we didn't talk about this beforehand because it just popped in my head. Like, we're talking about parents and energy work, and we had talked to we'd done the work with the mother and the father wound, but that it's not just about the relationship that you have with your parents, where these wounds come from. They are
Absolutely.
they are wounds that are built upon from generations and society and your own beliefs and traumas that you've gone through, your own experiences that build these these wounds. And like we talked about the TV personalities that we think we should have, those add to that, to those wounds of, why am I not enough to have those parents?
Right. Because you sit there and you think, why not me?
Right.
Why not me? Why don't I have those things? Like, what's wrong in me that I don't have this?
Right.
What happened to me that I don't have this support system?
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So we all go, and I am sure our kids have at some point mourned the parents that they wish they had. I'm sure my kids wish that they had parents that were richer when they were kids, or could spend, more money on them for the higher dollar shoes for football, or, you know, whatever. And I'm sure, and they're allowed to do that. It should be expected for them to have those moments of realization of the parents they do have, and to grieve the parents that they thought that they deserved or wanted, even though we know they signed up to have us as their moms, right?
Yep, exactly. Like this is the life they chose. However,
Yeah.
that's not um, that's not a you know get out of jail free card
Right.
and that
Right.
you get to
No,
be as
no,
much of a
absolutely
schmuck
not.
as you want.
Absolutely not. That's me bringing humor into a very uncomfortable
Yeah.
situation.
So, energetically, what would you suggest to our listeners in terms of how to navigate, especially since you're going through this right now? What
Yeah,
would
so the
be
first thing,
beneficial?
yeah, energetically, the first thing I would suggest is to really take a look at yourself if you're a parent, and ask yourself, when raising your kids, could you have done any differently with the knowledge that you had at the time that you disciplined or put your kid in front of the TV as a babysitter. Like, could you have done any differently in that moment with the knowledge that you had? And the answer is going to be no. With the knowledge you had in that moment in time, you could not have done any differently. Same thing goes for your parents.
That's a great angle to come at that from.
Because it even though it's not my typical energy work, it is going to shift your energy in a way that you can now kind of look in the mirror at your parents and see them for the humans that they are.
There's a great meditation for this. It's called the Metta meditation. It's Metta. And it is using yourself, a person that you love, a neutral person, a person that you have a difficult relationship with, and then all beings. And in each layer of the meditation, you say to yourself, may you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be peaceful. May you be safe. And then you in turn pick someone that you love, say that to them, neutral person. I think there's a mentor or teacher in there as well too. Maybe I think it's 5.
Mm-hmm.
Loved, mentor, neutral, difficult, all beings. Yeah, it's 5.
Okay.
The first, I don't know, 20, 30 times that I said this meditation to clients and students, when I read this meditation, I would have to pause periodically and just stop because I would have so much emotion in doing this. And for
Mm-hmm.
me, challenge, the difficult relationship for me for a long time was my mom. And just being able to go through that and process that and navigate that in a way that felt right for me, having people find the ways that in which they can not hold, I think, and the way that you shared, looking at it from giving yourself kindness, compassion, and non-judgment, and then in turn
Mm-hmm.
taking that and applying it to your parents.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really big gift that you can give yourself. You're not giving this
Yes.
to your parents, you're giving it
No,
to
this is
yourself.
yourself. This is yourself. And this isn't going to make feelings go away.
Mm-mm.
When I started doing this, there were still times that, I mean, this was before my mom told me she didn't like me so much. Um, and when she told me she didn't like me so much, it brought up more feelings and more hurt. Um, but by that point, I was allowing myself to have those feelings. And I had the support system in place that was there to hold me when I had that ugly cry of, why am I not a good enough daughter? We had this conversation. Why am I not a good enough daughter at 48 years old? Why am I not a good enough daughter to be liked? It doesn't negate any of the feelings that you're having. All it's going to do, not all it's going to do, what it's going to do is it's going to show you, if you're open to it, to seeing your parents for the humans that they are.
Mm-hmm.
But then you can bring that back to yourself and go, I'm also just human. And then you can start to look at, how do you want to heal that human? If you're like me, and a lot of what you had to heal from in the beginning was before you were cognitive of it, then I would start with energy work and then add in talk therapy. If it's the other way around, start with talk therapy and add in the energy work. Do them simultaneously. They are so good together. And talk
Yes.
therapy does not mean that you have to go in and hire a therapist. You can have a friend that you talk with every once in a while, not someone to complain to, not someone to dump on. It is someone to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. What are your thoughts? It's got to be someone trusted, because it does take time to trust a therapist. It takes time to trust anybody to share your feelings with. Go ahead.
I was just saying, and also going back and listening to our episode on boundaries,
Yeah.
because how you navigate and heal the energetic process of this, um, whether the person is alive or not, help developing healthy boundaries that assist you in your healing. And the boundaries may be temporary, they may be permanent. And again,
Right.
it's up to
Right.
you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've had to set new boundaries with my mom, with her being now on the other side. If I start to feel like the past couple weeks, if I start to feel like agitation, I muscle test to see if it's my mom's energy that I'm feeling. And only once out of 3 times I've gotten a yes.
okay.
So that it's that point when I can say, you know what, mom, I need you to step away. I need you to take your energy and step away because I'm not ready to deal with that yet.
And
And
giving voice
and
to that is important.
it is because even if you don't believe that the spirits can come in and like stand right next to you and you can feel them, your thoughts, your emotions are still impacting your energy, your how you're feeling. So even if you feel like it's your emotions and your thoughts that are like triggering you, you can tell that part of you, hey, not right now. Let me go and ground. Let me go and get into a space where I can process this. Right? I think in another episode we talked about like having your emotions and the behavior around your emotions. Like is it safe to have your emotions out in public? Probably, depending on the emotion, probably not. So it's when you have to say not right now and come back into the moment. And then when you can deal with it, allow yourself to deal with it.
Yes.
But other energetic things you can do, definitely find an energy healer or a light worker that um, you resonate with them, you resonate with their modality, and start to work on your relationship with your parent.
And a
You
big
know,
component to remember is again, like you don't have to know each individual
right?
moment, memory, story. You can start with healing the energy. You can add in some type of movement, somatic therapy as well. Yoga is a somatic therapy. Just be mindful in who you work with as well, that they're equipped to be able
Yeah,
to handle if big emotions come
yeah,
up in a class or in a session. And
yeah,
then, yeah, combining modalities is incredibly beneficial because it helps to heal that energetic imprint in your body.
right, yeah.
Um, and remember,
And, yep.
there's
And
no
when you
right way to
start,
do it.
right, and when you start doing that, you're healing future generations as well. You're healing past generations. You're releasing those ancestral, inherited, and shared energies that you may have either passed through you onto the next or was passed on to you. And of course, we're both huge advocates of your self-care. Keep your self-care
Absolutely.
in check. Make sure that you are doing your daily meditations, that you're journaling when you need to. I know I don't journal every single day. I probably journal like every other day, and it also depends on like what I'm going through that day. Um, but journaling, meditation, going for, having some movement, either a walk or yoga or something. Eva's got a new program, yoga for non-bendy people. Um,
Yeah.
it's an awesome program, so you guys should check it out. We'll make sure to put the information down below. I've got group healings where if you're busy, it takes you 5 minutes on a Sunday to write in your intention, and then 5 minutes to read the activations each morning. Eva's in the group, and she can attest that it takes no time at all, and she's reaping the benefits of the healings in places where she probably didn't think that she would be getting that benefit, right? Whoever thought that healing your mother and father wound would help with your communication with your own kids. You would think that I know when I first started healing my mother and father wound a couple years ago, it was, is this going to heal my relationship with my parents? Um, but again, it didn't. It helped with my communication. It helped me to be able to set boundaries. It helped me to be able to keep those boundaries, which is another self-care, um, that huge self-care and
Yeah.
self-forgiveness. There's so many different things, but make sure that you are putting that time and effort into yourself, because you are so worth spending your time on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is a big episode. So if you get done listening to this episode and you're feeling incredibly heavy, go do something that makes you smile, dance, jump, scream, yell, whatever, go share this with a friend or share this with your sibling and help talk with them about the different experiences that you've each had. So there's a lot in this. Yeah,
There is,
definitely.
and we'll put down in the comments, not down in the comments, in the show notes, the Metta
Meta
meditation.
meditation.
I'm just making notes so that I can make sure I put these down in there.
Yep.
The
And I
Metta
have a link for
meditation.
that in on YouTube as well too. So we can put the link for the YouTube recording of that
Okay,
in here as
perfect.
well too.
And I have laughing yoga video that I'll put down into the link so that you can giggle away.
I love it.
Um, so yeah, but thank you so much everybody for joining us for this episode on and I hope we covered enough on how to mourn the parent that you wish you had, that you did wind up with, and then if you've lost a parent, our condolences, um, and how to start navigating the loss of that parent. Now, we both come from difficult relationships in navigating that story. So maybe we'll come back and revisit this, and we'll bring on a guest who was close with a parent, and they can share how to mourn and navigate through the loss of a parent that they had a close relationship with. And of course, we'll probably try to make sure that it's an energy healer or a light worker so that they can talk on the energetics behind it as well.
Absolutely. That sounds like a great idea. And revisiting this in about 6 months or so, so that you're also at a different
Yeah.
space. So whenever it feels right for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you so much for coming in. We'll see you soon.
Thanks,
Bye bye.
guys. Bye bye.